Kia ora and welcome to a one-of-a-kind podcast series brought to you by Maxim Institute, Maximise Election 23. We are here every week to dive into the latest news, discussing the plain and the fancy articles while bringing you insightful analysis of the various events across our country. We also present the Generally Good Egg Award and share our expectations for the following week.
And great to be with you. I'm Maryanne Spurdle and Marcus Roberts. It's been an interesting week this week. I think I was on the radio talking with Mike Munro, Labour Party strategist for Helen Clark, and he said the first casualty of a campaign is truth. Mm-hmm. And we have certainly seen that with a number of, can I be charitable and say misstatements from Labour? I can't recall all of them because I've got 4 kids, but Maryanne, you've got them written down.
Yeah, so we've got Labour MP Willie Jackson got carried away at a debate. He said that National Enact would abolish the minimum wage, and then when he recognised that too many people would know that's not quite true, he said, well, they were planning to reduce it, which is still not true. So he's basically going around talking like, well, it should be true, but, it's not my fault. And then Andrew Little, he said that National Enact together would flog off the schools and sack all the teachers. They have no policy to do that.
It's not true.
No.
Not true.
Just to be clear.
Definitely sounds like a bad idea, though. Shannon Halpert on Facebook, somebody said...
We can agree on that.
Yeah, that National would decrease sick leave to 5 days. And he agreed with that person's comment, but they don't have a policy to do that. They've committed actually to keeping sick leave at 10 days.
At 10 days,
Yep.
yeah.
And then finally, Duncan Webb in his newsletter said that National would abolish Smarteriki. So they're getting a bit desperate there.
Yeah, that's the Christchurch MP. And look, I think this is really... And we can laugh about this because they've been called out and they're obvious untruths. But there's an issue here, and that's the trustworthiness of politicians. In the sense that democracy, I hate to come across all stentorious so early, but democracy is fragile. It does rely on truth. You feed truth into the mechanism and you'll get a truthful outcome. If you feed untruth into it, then people won't engage as much. And we're already looking at when I think about this election, I think of it as a distrust election in the sense of whom do you distrust the least?
I was talking to someone close right on that point, Tim, that they were talking about who they were going to vote for. And I said, well, this person can't be trusted at all, and gave him a couple of reasons why that was the case. And this person who's close to me said, yes, this politician's telling me lies, but I like those lies. And all the rest of them are lying to me as well. So why don't I just go for the one that...
Why don't I just pick the liar I like?
But we'll pick the lies I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe they're going to come true.
I don't even like the liar. I just like the lies.
I like the lies. And I mean, if enough people are starting to think that about our politicians, then that is a problem for our democracy. And as you say, that we should be having our leaders out there who are the best of us.
Yeah.
We should be having people who we can look up to, who we can trust to lead the nation and to lead our finances. And it doesn't seem that people think we are at the moment. And partly because we have government ministers saying things that are patently untrue.
Patently untrue. And just a note here that Maxim Institute is bringing out Tom Simpson from the UK. Now, he's an associate professor at the Blavatnik School of Government and also he has a book out on trust, and this is trust of civic institutions like government, like democracy, like the media, etc., etc. And by any measure in New Zealand, those institutions are increasingly being distrusted, which is sad because we used to be quite a high trust country.
Sad, but not surprising, and probably justified.
Yeah.
So, guys, politicians, please tell the truth when you can. And by the way, there was the national thing.
Yeah.
Maryanne.
That was the brochure they put out.
Yep.
With different, people who were going to say
supposedly
so much
real
with
people.
There were photos of families. They were named. This is their job. This is how much they earn. And then it turns out they're actually stock images. And
because someone did a reverse engineer on some of those images.
Yeah, did a reverse Google search, and you could probably do that with all of them. And it was just stupid because, like you said, trust. People are just assuming that we're being lied to, and this just enforces that idea. And they could have shown a point of difference by just keeping a campaign where everything is 100% real when you dig down, and they haven't.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the AI imagery that they used a few months back. And
For
then
some of their,
Yeah,
some of their advertising.
Get real people if you're going to try to market stories like that.
Having said that, I think I'll categorise that as it's not a blatant mistruth.
No,
in the
the
same
facts
sense
were
of saying,
correct,
this is what the opposition's going to do. Oh, they've got no plans to do that
Yeah.
whatsoever. But it
It
erodes.
looks like a big company that's trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
You know, which
Yeah.
is what you expect in their glossy brochure. But our representatives shouldn't be presenting themselves that way.
Let's keep things moving. I just want to talk very quickly about undecided voters. So we talk about polls a lot, and what's been consistent is a level of indecision in the voters. The question is whether those voters will turn out. What does it mean? There was one poll recently last week. I think it was the possibly a Talbot Mills poll, but 300,000 undecided voters. And one of the comments was, that was 300,000 people who voted for Jacinda Ardern. Chris Hipkins has to get them out. Well, even if they did vote for Jacinda Ardern in 2020, which was also an outlier election because it was a referendum on COVID, and we were happy with the government's response to that then.
And a huge voting period as well, remember? They had many weeks, longer than they're going to have this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean...
This week, is it that short? My goodness.
Sorry, this year.
Yeah.
This year, sorry, I'm getting so excited. The undecided voters, you often hear that after polls, Tim, that they say, well, what are the undecideds? Tell me the undecideds. But I always am a bit skeptical about that, because if you are undecided or you don't know or you won't tell a poll, there's a few things there. One, you might not be a swing voter. You might be deciding between National Enact or Labour and the Greens. So you're not really a swing voter.
Yeah.
Secondly, you might just not want to tell the pollster, you know. So thirdly, if you're not going to if you can't be bothered making up your mind and telling a pollster, what are the odds that you're going to turn up on election day? And last year we had 18% of people didn't turn up to vote, and that was last election, and that was a outlier.
That was a high turnout.
That was a high turnout. We are unlikely to get that again. So we're probably looking at a quarter of people not turning up.
Yeah.
So when they say 1 in 5 voters are soft or undecided, because that's just a normal election.
And even the people who are saying Labour or National, I think there's a lot of apathy even among people who are like, well, that's who I usually vote for. I reckon a lot of them won't turn up because I don't think people are highly enthused.
And this
They're disappointed on a lot of levels.
Can I go back? This goes back to the distrust aspect.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
Why
so
should I bother?
when you've got someone you know saying, I'm just going to pick the lies I like the best, that doesn't show a level of engagement, optimism, or hope.
You're not going to spring out of bed on election day and go down to vote early.
You're going to shuffle. Let's keep moving. Winners and losers. Look, I'm going to say the loser is Legacy Media. New Zealand On Air does a regular survey of free-to-air broadcast TV, radio, print, etc. Big erosions in terrestrial free-to-air broadcast TV. Not unexpected. I was quite surprised that use of radio is diminishing, but I guess that's the incursion of podcasts. And I wonder if that'll be in particular. So, for example, music stations. But I will say that I think radio does have a longevity that TV doesn't have. The fact is that there are 40,000 cars being brought in from Japan every month to New Zealand, and those cars, without a band extender, they can get one of two stations. One is My FM, which is the hip hop FM station, and the other one is News Talk ZB. And so, when you've got that many transistor radios on four wheels wandering around, I think your future is
and you're
assured.
driving in them for a long time because Auckland traffic's so terrible. So it's a lot of listen.
Any winners? What are we thinking?
We thought the winners, going back to the polls, maybe we should stop talking about minor parties. We should start talking about, and major parties, we should start talking about medium parties. Because we had one poll last week, the Roy Morgan, where you had ACT on 18 and Labour on 24, and National, the biggest party, was still only on 31. So I wonder if we're heading towards a landscape more like we're seeing in a lot of European countries, where you don't have two big parties and then smaller parties.
To that point, though, I'm not sure about some of these smaller parties that are supposed to rough up everyone and change the landscape, because you look at Te Pāti Māori, they bounced up and down, and I also wonder about the margin for error in these polls. I think that's something you've always got to pay attention to, is look at the margin for error, because that could be the difference between getting into Parliament for some of these small parties.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, these polls are 1,000 people. You just need 10 people changing.
Yeah.
Then that changes, for example, New Zealand First, whether they're in or out of Parliament. Yeah, so that's our winner, the medium parties, maybe. It's my winner anyway, too.
Except for the big medium parties, who are actually losers because they're not big parties.
That's right. They should embrace their mediumness, and then they'll
get used to it.
I want to embrace the All Blacks after the terrible showing, and I'm sure there's a connection too between sport success and government success. I'm sure they'll be watched. They must have a sporting analyst in each of the major parties saying, what does this mean for our standing?
So that's a winner or a loser, Tim? We're saying, it's
depending on the party
you're right, actually. I think we all lose with that. I'll amend it. Generally good egg.
So you had, Maryanne, we were listening to the News Talk ZB, we had that debate with, or that conversation between Heather Duplessis-Allen and Willie Jackson around the misstatements he made earlier around you were talking about the minimum wage, right? And they were trying to get to the bottom of that, and that seemed to be a situation where both parties were coming at it in a way that was, robust but not personal.
And face-to-face.
Like us here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the timing. My apologies. Then I'll shut up.
Yeah, I mean,
my good egg, I don't know who this person is, but they asked Chris Hipkins about Winston Peters' election promise to compensate Kiwis who are injured by the vax or forced out of employment because of the mandates. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was saying nobody's allowed to talk about this, and somebody put him on the spot and got him to say what good answer? Where he said, people made their choice.
Where he said that they had a choice.
Yes.
No
one was forced.
No one was compelled.
I mean, and to be fair, nobody was kidnapped, blindfolded, and forced to take the injection. That is true. But to say that people made their own choice. So good on whoever put him on the spot to answer that. His answer was atrocious, but I'm glad that he was asked it.
Yeah, we're still. I think we still need to have a conversation about that. I know as a country we're not quite there yet. No, unfortunately. I don't think so. Let's look at the week ahead. Preview.
It's so exciting, isn't it, Tim? So
what's preview?
Pre-election fiscal update, apparently. So this is when they open the books. There's a time period under the electoral legislation where it says the Treasury must open the books so that we all know where the country's heading financially, so that the opposition parties have an idea, because the government already knows. Day to day they know. But this is to stop there being surprises, the government hiding things until after the election.
I wonder if this was brought in after Yeah, it was, because Labour in the 80s inherited a catastrophic economic situation. What's been interesting about that is the inclusion of the super fund in that financial plan. Yeah,
and the balancing of the debt. So they're saying that the government debt now is netted off against assets, including our super fund assets, which of course are put away to pay for super.
Yeah.
It's in the name. So I don't know how much you can really look into those numbers when that's the case, because if we're going to take into account the super fund, we should probably take into account the liabilities that it's put in place to pay for, which is our rapidly aging population.
And also when we look at this, I mean, I think the government has often said, look, government debt's not so bad. Oh, it's not as bad, say, as the United States, but but ours is a functionally different economy to the United States. So this is where often we like to compare ourselves to overseas, but we need to be clear about what countries we're comparing ourselves to. Are they like us? Possibly a country like Ireland might be a better comparison than perhaps, say, the UK, most certainly the US.
And also, if we have a problem with what the government's been doing financially, it's not a good enough thing to say, well, everyone else is doing it, right?
Oh, exactly, yeah.
That's the problem.
That's what my kids say.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's like, well, Roman, can you stop doing that? Well, Felix was doing it, and so was Wolfie. It's like, this is not an argument.
So I think that the unpacking of the pre-foo in the days ahead, I think, will be interesting and another bone of contention between the parties. So look out for it.
Let's hope they do it. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to something a little more lighthearted.
Yes.
I'm hoping that this endorsements from the dead from David Seymour is going to become a thing.
So who have we had so far? We're taking a tally.
Well, yeah, he started with Nelson Mandela and got a bit of stick of that with that because, he's not Kiwi and he's not alive. But then, he thought he'd conjure up Kate Shepherd. So I'm hoping he's making this a thing.
Yeah.
Like, who else has he got up his sleeve?
To vote for.
Who would add mana to acts that we don't expect?
Abe Lincoln.
Gandhi. Maybe? Gandhi?
Yeah, he could really take this a number of directions.
What electorate's Gandhi in?
The one that votes for ACT, obviously.
And on that note, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week. See you guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.